Another thing that gets me motivated is she says, hey, I want to have this project. I'm like, oh man, a project. And I'm like, I won't get it started. So she knows. She starts pulling out the ladder, starts pulling out things to do the project. Then I'll jump in and take over. And it's so funny. Like the 6th or 7th time after we've been married, she started doing that. I jumped in. She goes, man, you're like clockwork. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, at first, it kind of made me mad that I had to do that. But then I'm like, hey, if that's what it takes to get Jason going, then that's fine. All right, welcome back to the Massive Passive Income Show.
Glad to be here. I'm Colter.
I'm Jason. I got that one right in there. I wanted to make sure I got the name right off the bat. Well, we're gonna do something a little bit different today. Well, not really, but we're gonna talk about what it means to get stuck. And we're not talking about stuck in the mud and the snow that's out there right now. There's tons of cars. I was on my way to Rexburg this morning. Man, it was like a flipping wreckage yard. There was cars all over the place off the road. It was crazy.
Really?
People forget how to drive on snowy roads. Anyways, but not that kind of stuck. We're talking about mental blocks, maybe a stuck or a plateau in like your business, or maybe plateau in your weight loss, or maybe in your fitness, or in your mental health, or in a hobby you've got going on. Maybe you've reached a point where you need to take it to the next level and you don't know how to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's easy for us to get overwhelmed, right? When stuff starts to stack up and we're like, I have X and Y and Z and A and B and C and just starting all over. It just feels like, where do I start? What are my steps 1 through 1 or 1 through 100 that I need to get done? And really it comes down to methodically stepping back and saying, okay, what are the critical items? What are the, mildly important, and what just does not matter?
Yeah.
And, there was a phrase that I saw the other day, focus on what matters most and forget the rest. And, and if we can just simplify it to that list of what matters most, and then we can eliminate the excess, then we're going to be so much happier focused on the things that are truly impacting us mentally, physically, emotionally, whether it's health or wealth or relationships. I mean, those aspects of our lives, if we can focus on the few priorities rather than, hey, you know what? I wasn't supposed to eat a little ice cream cone at McDonald's today, but you know what? I needed that today because I just had the hardest conversation with somebody that I really care about, but they're just not, understanding what I'm having to say. Like, we're going to fail, right? It's just a matter of whether we decide if we're going to fail forward or we're just going to fail and just get stuck.
And sometimes you get wrapped up into that, what matters most, because really, if you get down to it, nothing really matters to a certain point. And so sometimes you get to what matters most is like Colter said to Ryan, he's like, hey, give me a call. If you get stuck, give me a call. Because sometimes somebody can do a 50 miles, is that what they call it, look, or a mile look, or whatever it is, it's something, because you're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of the minutia, and you're trying to see your way through, and you can't do it. And somebody else can come in and say, all right, tell me everything you got going on. And number one is, if you don't get this done, are your bills going to get paid if it's your job? So you got to take care of, bills getting paid. You got to take care of somebody that's expecting something from you. And then maybe something that doesn't need to happen, but you would like to happen. And then something that should happen, but doesn't have to happen right now. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think people get confused on, okay, what matters most? Well, obviously you and your family and everything matters most. But man, if you don't bring home a paycheck that week, then some things are gonna not fall into place for you. So what matters most is, I love how you put that in, and I'm glad that you offered that to Ryan, because sometimes we need somebody to have that overhead view of what we got going on, because we can't see out. We're like, well, I need to do this, and this person's gonna be mad if I don't get this done. Well, what if you don't do anything? What's gonna have the biggest impact if you don't do anything? Well, if I don't do anything, then my check doesn't come in. Okay, that's your priority right there. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure you got money coming in. And then let's move some other things in there. What has to get done, what should get done, and what you would like to get done.
Yeah. And there's a power of just saying something. Speaking through it and just trying to vocalize what it is that you're dealing with. It's amazing how much relief that can actually create. And how intelligent we are as we start to process it, as we put it into words to explain the problem that we're trying to address to somebody else, how our mind is so intelligent, it will start to solve the problem for ourselves. And we're not necessarily looking for somebody else to solve it for us, but just to listen so that they can feel, so that we can, one, feel like we're heard, and two, feel like we vocalized it in a methodical way that says, oh, that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And I've had two instances in the last couple of months. Well, and I guess it'd be longer than that. My grandma passed away recently, and I was sharing some pretty vulnerable, like, hey, you know what? This is hard. Like, I grew up living just across the field from her. I went and saw her every day. I always came away with a few Oreo cookies.
Nice.
And Grandma Horsley was just one of those rocks in my life that I knew that I could rely on. And I had a friend reach out to me, and he just sent me a message and said, hey, you know what? I've been seeing these posts, and are you okay? And that means a ton. One, that I could have another, a conversation with him. And I recently had a friend come to me and, say, hey, I'm dealing with some stuff. I think I'm potentially going to be dealing with a separation or a divorce. I've got some stuff going on with the house. We're having a hard time with some bills. We have some complications in my life that I'm dealing with. And just me listening, it meant a whole lot to that person.
Definitely.
And you know what? We all deal with these different things and different levels of challenges that if somebody is just willing to hear us out, we can solve some things, or at least we can process what it is that we're actually facing rather than feeling like the whole world's weight is on our shoulders.
Yeah, sometimes my wife, we've learned over the last 23 years kind of how each other works. And sometimes when I get stuck, she'll start throwing out ideas. And the way my brain works is I'm not sure what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. So she immediately starts just throwing stuff out that she knows I'm like, no, that isn't gonna work. No, that's not gonna help. No, I can't do that. Nope, I can't do that. And after 4 or 5 times she sharing that what I know, and it's when she says it to me, I'm like, yeah, that's ridiculous. There's no way I'll do that. Or no, that's not gonna work. All at once I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do. Because it until somebody can kind of throw it out there at you, and without me sharing, hey, I'm stuck in this, or man, I just cannot move forward. Another thing that gets me motivated is she says, hey, I wanna have this project. I'm like, oh man, a project. And I'm like, I won't get it started. So she knows, she starts pulling out the ladder, starts pulling out things to do the project. Then I'll jump in and take over. And it's so funny. Like the 6th or 7th time after we've been married, she started doing that. I jumped in. She goes, man, you're like clockwork. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, at first, it kind of made me mad that I had to do that. But then I'm like, hey, if that's what it takes to get Jason going, then that's fine. She doesn't say anything to me. You see her with the ladder going downstairs. I'm like, what's she doing, the ladder? Then you see her with the paint can, or you see her with, something else, or you see her with an axe going downstairs. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? So I go down, I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, well, I want this done. So I'm like, all right, well, this. And eventually she helps me out for a little bit, and then I just take over, and then before I know it, I'm done. But I couldn't start. I'm like, for some reason, I didn't want to start that project. But she knows how my brain works, and that's fine. That's what I need. I need to get out of that stuck.
Well, and I think that's an important thing to remind ourselves of, is like, what is it that gets me going? And if I were to look into what Jason just said, is his wife is a motivating factor of saying, hey, I want to help her.
Yeah.
I want her to be taken care of, and so if she starts a project and she's going to start scaling the ladder, he's going to be there to either chase her, or race her up the ladder,
yep,
or, make sure that she's there. And, so I love that, being able to start, and because self-motivation and self-starting has to come with some sort of motivation. And my wife and I talk about our girls and their personalities all the time.
Yeah.
And we have a 9-year-old right now, and her response to work is immediately no, right? And it could just drive us batty to say, oh, whoa, no, you don't understand. You're going to do this. And she just doesn't want to even hear any of it. But we flipped it around, and what we understand about our 9-year-old is that she she wants to be involved and is totally motivated to do things if she understands why.
So just telling her, do that, she's like, I don't want to do that. But you say, hey, this is what this is going to accomplish, this is why we need it done.
Yeah.
And she's on board.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And so if she understands the why, she will chase that why all day long, and she will work until midnight on a spelling test if she understands that, hey, you know what? The reason you're doing this is because you want to get a really good score. You want to perform. You want to be at the highest level. You want to be smart. And that is a measure of her success. And she understands that, and she's seen classmates do it. And in the last few weeks, she's understood why. And let's just use spelling tests as an example. She's understood the why behind her spelling tests, and she's gotten 100% and 100% and 91%, and she is elated because she actually found out the reason why she was chasing that. And before, it was completely different. It was exhausting for everyone to try and do a spelling test because now she knows why.
I'm glad she found that out now. Some people are in their 40s and don't find out what motivates them. So she's 9 years old and found that out? That's awesome. I want a person like that on my team. I'm serious. I mean, sometimes it takes forever for people to find a why or a reason. I mean, just a difference in my kids. I had, 4 different kids. My 10-year-old, what he figured out by watching the other kids as he's growing up is I would say, hey, would you guys do this? And yeah, sure. And they wouldn't get it done. So then my radar's on them. Hey, I've asked them 3 times, they haven't done it. And then I come down and say, hey, you haven't done that? How come you haven't cleaned your room either? I start going off other things. So my 10-year-old, which I figured out over the last couple of years, he, as soon as I ask him to do something, you bet, Dad, boom, he goes and does it. He'll run downstairs, get something for me, run it back upstairs, he runs back downstairs. So I'm not on him. And what he realized is if he does exactly what I ask, and when I ask him to do it, he can still play video games and I don't notice he's playing video games. So that's his motivating factor. If it takes me to come downstairs, hey, how come you haven't done this yet? Then I see him play, hey, what are you playing video games for? You're not supposed to be playing video games. Or how long have you been on? Because we have a certain time limit they can be on. He realized real short, he just stops whatever he's doing, runs to wherever he's got to do, brings it up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid's awesome. Look at him go. He can go back downstairs and continue what he's doing without Dad getting involved. So it's important to find out what motivates us. And here's what I've noticed. When people want to do something different, especially entrepreneurs, when people want to start a business, when people want to do something different from the norm of whatever their day-to-day thing that they do, a lot of times people get stuck. They get stuck because they don't know when to start or how to start. It's they got a full-time job, they're working somewhere, they come home, they want to buy a rental property, they want to buy a short-term rental, they want to flip a house, they want to go look at houses, but they get home and they're stuck. They're like, man, where do I even start? What do I even look at? How do I even get going? And what's helped me with that, because I was full-time truck driver and I've turned real estate investor, is having the right people that I'm surrounded around that are also motivated with doing the same things I want to do. And so a community of people like Colter and Ryan, people that are at different stages of their entrepreneurship, whether they've started a business, has nothing to do with real estate, but they're still in business, it's a side hustle, or they've started a new hobby, or they actually are in real estate. Those type of people motivate me because I hang out with them and they're doing stuff and I'm like, I just got to get this going. Otherwise, if you don't hang out with those people, you could have a dream of buying a rental property for 10, 15 years and never get it done. Surrounding yourself around people that are out there wanting something different or wanting something more, and I don't want to say more that what you're doing isn't enough. I'm just talking more as you want a little side hustle, a little something to make some money, a little something to create for some retirement. Whatever that is for you, you surround your people around people like that, man, it really helps you keep motivated and get going.
Yeah. I really love the phrase, the rising tide raises all ships.
Sure does, sure does.
And so if we're out there on the surfboard and right there next to each other and the wave comes, we're going to go up with everybody else. And, in the rising tide, the moon pulls that water in. At the end of the day, we all get to come up together if we're all on the same page and on the plane and, moving in the same direction. So I totally agree. I don't know.
Sometimes you surround your people around that are negative too, and that can bring you down.
Mm-hmm. It really can. I mean, I'm visualizing just what it means to have a community and what it's meant for me at different stages in my life. And I think about the circles that I've run in and the focuses that each of those circles have had. And I love to travel. I love to, play different sports. I love real estate and passionate about each of those things. And as I run and as I talk and I visit with people that are in each of those interests, how much more I've traveled because of certain relationships, or how much more that how many more deals I've done because I'm talking to people about deals. And even in the last 90 days, it feels like I've increased I've been accelerating only because I have more people around me that are excited about what I've been excited about my whole life. But the more that we have these conversations about real estate, the more conversations it creates, the more opportunities it creates, the more brainstorming that we can do in order to get the things done that we're looking to accomplish.
That's so key to anybody's success, to be around people that are wanting to do the same thing you're wanting to do, or just want to do something different. I think when I was driving truck, most of the people I drove truck with, they were truck drivers. So what do? My wife says they complain about the weather, they complain about whatever's going on in traffic in Utah, and working nights. I mean, so I got wrapped up into that negativity of, oh man, Utah drivers are horrible. Oh, the weather's gonna be bad tonight. Oh, I can't believe they're making me do this. I can't believe they're making me do that. My whole mindset was because everybody I was hanging out with, all they did was complain because they didn't see outside of what that job had to offer. Because as soon as you got home, then it was family or whatever else. But all I saw was what they were negative about. Not very, very rarely did I run into somebody who was positive about what we were doing. And so once I changed who I hung out with, my mind started shifting on, hey, I don't have to do this the rest of my life. And not that somebody does it is bad, but I didn't want where I was at, that negativity to affect me because I was starting to bring it home. I was, my wife wanted to go to Utah. I'm like, I'm not going down there. I can't stand the drivers down there. Not saying that I think the drivers are better now, but at least it wasn't consuming me, because it was. Everything about it, everything about the road construction to Utah Department of Transportation. I mean, it was my whole world. It was all about that, because I went back from Idaho to Utah, and once I changed who I hung out with, it's amazing what I stopped complaining about, number one, and then number two, what I was excited about. Because now I wasn't worried so much about this, because I'm like, I'm getting out of there, because it's not serving me the way I want to be served. And I was excited to hang out with people that thought totally differently. My conversations changed, and because my conversations changed, my outlook changed. Because my outlook changed, I changed.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so we've talked about so many things, and let's just unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
We started with the conversation of, you know what, sometimes we just feel stuck.
We can't get going.
We've talked about, finding your why and, identifying that. We've talked about the negativity versus the positivity. And, as we try to analyze and evaluate, or take a personal evaluation of who we are and what it is that we want, I found that if I just take a blank sheet of paper and just start, I look at it sometimes for a really long time, but once I start writing and saying, hey, you know what, this is what I want. Or, Jason has a really cool thing is like, I am the kind of person that does this.
Yeah.
And, when I start to identify who I am and what it is that means to me and my personality, it says, hey, you know what, this is where I am. It doesn't mean that it takes me out of that pit that says, hey, you're not enough, or you're not doing enough, you're, here and there. So get unstuck. Call somebody. Yeah. Find somebody that, can bring that positivity in your life, can help you find the why of what you're doing every single day. Look for that positivity and get rid of the negativity and the negative people that might be around you. And I honestly think that more often we'll be able to get unstuck because of that intentional action to move out of that headspace.
And then, like where you were going, write it down, and then prioritize. Mm-hmm. And then be kind to yourself. I can't stress that enough. Be kind to yourself. Maybe you didn't get what you wanted done that day. Maybe you didn't make that deadline. It's okay. It's okay. Be kind to yourself. I think too much, we beat up ourselves way too much. And all that does is create more negativity, so we can't move forward better next time or the next day or later that day. So be kind to yourself. give yourself some slack, celebrate your small things, prioritize, write it down, get somebody else involved.
Yeah.
I think that's hopefully can help you with some success if you get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were going to wrap up, but there's one other thing, and I had a conversation.
No, do it.
Just this last Sunday, and bringing spirituality or prayer into this.
Let's bring it in. We both love Jesus.
We both love Jesus. We really do. And and to think about what we've just talked about. We've talked about writing it down. We've talked about talking it out. We've talked about having self-evaluation. And we both love Jesus. Like you said, we both have this faith in a higher power that says, hey, you know what? Colter is not the end-all be-all. Jason is not the end-all be-all. There's something greater than ourselves that allows for us to aspire to something greater than what we experience in this life of ups and downs and goods and bads and abundance and trials. And I think about what prayer can do for a person is you're basically taking that self-evaluation of a day and you are summarizing it and verbalizing it to that higher being that understands what we're going through. And that verbalization, that speaking it out, that talking it through is the safest place you can find before having to go and be vulnerable to somebody that you may or may not want to trust with your challenges that you're facing. But starting there and verbalizing it to God, that higher power, is so incredibly powerful in my mind. And I just couldn't help but bring that in.
Oh, I'm glad you did. There's so much to that. So yeah, I agree 100%. And so if this resonated with you, send it to a friend. Send this podcast to a friend. Get somebody out there that may need something, because like Colter said, we're not the end all be all. We don't know everything, but we've gone through some stuff. We've unpacked our junk. We've got minutia we wade through every single day. But we have also awesome things and celebrations and good things and blessings and prayers that are answered. I mean, we have all the good, but there's also some of that bad. And sometimes we just get stuck in that bad. That Dave Blanchard, he was a good mentor of mine. He called it wading in your own manure, and it happens. Sometimes you're wading around in it, and you just need a hand up to step out of that manure for a little bit and see all the good. Because most of the time we think we're drowning in it. Most of the time it's not very deep. We just, for some reason, are laying down in it, trying to swim in. If we just stand up, we would only be at our feet, and then we can see clearly.
Yeah.
So that's great. Awesome podcast. I think it was good. But I'm kind of partial because we did it. But I learned some stuff, and hopefully you did too. And that's what it's all about. It's not only we don't know everything, but we're learning right along with you guys. And hopefully this does something for you. So,
Thank you.